morning, everyone. Can you hear me all good? Thank you. Good morning. Before I begin, I just want to start with a quick prayer. May the words of my mouth and this meditation of my heart be pleasing in your sight, Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Good morning, everybody. For those that don't know me, my name is Ella, and I've been around the PBC community for maybe about 4 years. I am married to Dan, and he was the one that introduced me to this beautiful community, and I am so blessed to call this place home. Before I came to PBC, I lived a number of lives. I've been a cucumber farmer, I will not elaborate on that one, a security guard, a swim teacher, a lifeguard. I'm trained to go on fire grounds. I know how to search floodwaters, collapsed buildings. I was a summer camp counselor in the US where we had 2 of the biggest tornadoes of the season that we experienced, one of which we prayed so hard against that it split in 2 around camp and came back together again at the other side. So I have a healthy respect for natural disasters. I have been a youth worker, a youth pastor. I trained as a photographer at university, and I now work for the police, so a really clear career progression. But each of these phases of my life has taught me a new way to fear crowd disruption, to fear drowning children, new fear and new respect of natural disasters, fear of not protecting my young people, fear of failure, fear of letting people down. But in every way that I've experienced these individual fears, I have also been taught to wait, to trust, and to hope. Let's see if this works. We'll just begin by taking a moment to read through Luke 1, chapters 5 to 13. In the time of Herod, king of Judea, there was a priest named Zechariah who belonged to the priestly division of Abijah. His wife Elizabeth was also a descendant of Aaron. Both of them were righteous in the sight of God, observing all the Lord's commands and decrees blamelessly. But they were childless because Elizabeth was not able to conceive, and they were both very old. Once, when Zechariah's division was on duty and he was serving as a priest before God, he was chosen by lot, according to the custom of the priesthood, to go into the temple of the Lord and burn incense. And when the time for the burning of incense came, all the assembled worshippers were praying outside. Then an angel of the Lord appeared to him, standing at the right side of the altar of incense. When Zechariah saw him, he was startled and was gripped with fear. But the angel said to him, "Do not be afraid, Zechariah. Your prayer has been heard. Your wife Elizabeth will bear you a son, and you will call him John." In the time of Herod. With these words, Luke's gospel grounds the birth of Jesus in a world shaped by violence, occupation, and fear. This was no golden age of peace or spiritual clarity. It was a time of survival under empire. Herod, the Roman-appointed ruler of Judea, governed with paranoia and cruelty. His power, secured through imperial alliance, was maintained by coercion, surveillance, and brutality. Luke situates the story of Jesus within these political realities. His gospel is not only spiritual, but political. Resistance in the face of empire. Amid this context, Luke introduces Zechariah and Elizabeth, an aging priestly couple not marked by prominence, but by longing. They had no child. In their time, barrenness was often interpreted as divine judgment. Elizabeth's childlessness brought not just personal grief, but public shame. Yet, Luke insists in verse 6, they were righteous. Their faith endured even in waiting. It's tempting to rush ahead to the angel's announcement and the joy of John's birth, but Luke slows us down, inviting us to notice this interruption. While offering incense in the temple, Zechariah encounters a divine messenger. His response is not relief or joy, understandably, but to be gripped with fear. Luke uses the Greek verb tarasso, I hope I'm saying that right, to be troubled, disturbed, or agitated. This is no fleeting startle. It evokes a deep inner shaking, a disruption of body and spirit. Tarasso is the soul's recoil from the unexpected, the mind's clamour in the face of uncertainty, the body's trembling at the threshold of something it cannot control. Fear, in this context, is not failure. It is a natural human response to divine interruption. But fear can become more than a reaction. It can take root and become a way of being. In John 14, Jesus says, "Let not your hearts be troubled," tarasso, "and do not be afraid," deileo, I think. The second term implies a shrinking of the heart, our spirit, a fear that inhibits action and diminishes courage. Together, these words describe fear that doesn't just visit, it settles. Fear that shapes our posture towards the world. And many of us know this kind of fear, especially in Herodian times, eras marked by empire, oppression, and uncertainty. Fear becomes embedded in our bodies, relationships, and public discourse. It becomes background noise so constant we forget it's there. Like Zechariah, we may grow so used to disappointment that when hope finally arrives, it startles us. When God interrupts, we flinch. So when the angel says, "Do not be afraid, Zechariah, for your prayer has been heard," it is not a dismissal. It is a reorientation. Your fear is real, but it is not the only truth. God has already been listening. God enters the silence, the ache, the barrenness, into the very place where fear has taken root. And God's response begins not with a miracle, but with recognition. Your prayer has been heard. About 6 years ago, when I was a youth worker, I was introduced to this poem by Emily Dickinson as a way to describe hope. In this poem, Dickinson compares hope to a small bird that lives within the human soul. This bird keeps singing its reassuring song no matter the circumstances, even during life's hardest storms. Hope is portrayed as beautiful, resilient, selfless. It never asks for anything in return from the people that it helps. It's a wonderful image, but when thinking about hope, I didn't find the image of a little bird being buffeted about by life's many storms overly reassuring. There is another poem, and I would like to read it for you now. Hope is not a bird, Emily. It is a sewer rat. Hope is not a thing with feathers that comes home to roost when you need it most. Hope is an ugly thing with teeth and claws and patchy fur that's seen some stuff. It's what thrives in the discards and survives in the ugliest parts of our world, able to find a way to go on when nothing else can even find a way in. It's the gritty, nasty little carrier of such diseases as optimism, persistence, perseverance, and joy, transmissible as it drags its tail across your path and bites you in the butt. Hope is not some delicate, beautiful bird, Emily. It is a lowly little sewer rat. When we are in the grips of fear, when we are troubled, disturbed, agitated, when our bodies and spirit have been disrupted, and are experiencing a deep inner shaking. I know what kind of hope I want to be clinging on to. The kind that is born into this world shaped by violence, occupation, and fear in the form of a little baby in a revolutionary act of God binding himself to humanity. The hope that is that baby growing up to become a man who is sacrificed so we do not have to experience this world shaped by violence, occupation, and fear in any way apart from our Father. The hope that Jesus brings is not one that perches in our souls and sings a little song. It is the hope that claws its way into our souls, burrows deep, clings on, and refuses to budge. This is the hope Zechariah and Elizabeth were holding on to. They were old, marked by a deep-rooted longing, bearing personal grief and enduring public shame. The hope they were clinging onto wasn't a fleeting fancy. Their hope endured. Lamentations 3:55-57 says this: I called on your name, Lord, from the depths of the pit. You heard my plea. Do not close your ears to my cry for relief. You came near when I called you, and you said, do not fear. God does not pluck the writer out of the pit immediately. God comes to them. He drew near, and he said, do not fear. His response begins not with a miracle, but with recognition. Your prayer has been heard. Hope is not the opposite of despair. Paul assures us in Romans that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope, and hope does not disappoint us. We are accustomed to seeing hope as the opposite of despair, doubt being no match for faith, hatred drowned by love, sadness may endure for the night, but joy comes in the morning. But can't joy and mourning exist at the same time? Having seen depression up close, I know the opposite of depression isn't happiness. The opposite of depression is feeling whole, feeling alive, including joy and sadness. Love and hatred. You can be alive and angry, even rageful, but you can feel something, and something is what leads to hope. And you can be in the depths of the pit, despairing, suffering, but calling out to God does not show defeat. The plea is the sound of the sewer rat, clawing its way into our souls, burrowing deep, clinging on, and refusing to budge. Missionary Elizabeth Elliot said, our vision can be so limited, we can hardly imagine a love that does not show itself in protection from suffering. But the love of God is of a different nature altogether. It does not hate tragedy. It never denies reality. It stands in the very teeth of suffering. The love of God did not protect his own son from the cross. The cross was proof of his love, that he gave his son, that he let him go to Calvary's cross, though legions of angels might have rescued him. He will not necessarily protect us, not from anything it takes to make us like his son. A lot of hammering and chiseling and purifying by fire will have to go into that process. As we step into a season of reflection and contemplation, Advent invites us to imagine a different kind of hope. Rooted in the unchanging nature of God and his promise to restore every part of his creation. Advent hope does not minimize pain or difficulty, nor does it assume things will soon get better. Instead, it faces the darkness with courage and chooses to trust that God's promises will come to pass, guaranteed by his long-proven, faithful character. In the Hebrew Bible, the words most often used for hope, kavah and yakal, I think, are also translated as wait. To hope in God means to wait with a patient expectation, trusting that he will fulfill his promises. This kind of waiting leans forward, anticipating the day when Jesus will return to make all things new. Such hope empowers people to persevere, to act justly, to serve others as a sign of restoration that will arrive through Jesus. In a season of waiting, we are not asked to suppress fear, but to face it, to ask, how does fear live in me? What voices has it amplified? What longings has it silenced? Fear can be a teacher. It tells us that something matters, that something is at stake. It is the voice of our vulnerability, asking to not be erased, but to be acknowledged. His life bearing witness to a God who hears. Advent gives us room to sit with fear, not to banish it, but to listen. What are we afraid to hope for? What have we stopped praying for? Where has fear caused us to shrink back? Zechariah's fear doesn't disqualify him. It marks the beginning of transformation. Even in his silence, he becomes part of the unfolding story, his life bearing witness to a God who hears, disrupts, and enters fearful places with grace. In the time of Herod, the world was loud with empire's threats, echoing with grief and longing. And still, God broke in. In the time of fear, God heard a prayer and responded with presence. This Advent, perhaps the question is not, how do we rid ourselves of fear? Perhaps the deeper invitation is this: can we name our fear honestly and still believe that God is near?